Hello and welcome. And today we are talking about developing the economy in the vocational way. The economy is in the decline. It raises questions as to whether or not we have a national plan or a common goal or even a rough idea of the direction we are heading in. Where does the problem actually start and where can we begin to fix it? Now, I have a sneaky suspicion that our educational model has quite a bit to do with it. Are we teaching our young generation to fill the gaps we have currently? Are we preparing to move the next stage by training students in the areas that will open up by the time they finish school? Now, Germany's jobless rate rose by less than all the other European countries during the 2008-2009 world recession, peaking at 7.9%. They had invested in the vocationally driven education model where emphasis was placed onto what you want to do rather than what you thought. Now, nobody talks about degrading Germany's AAA credit rating. It can borrow money for practically anything. Yet, Ghana goes cap in hand to the IMF. I am turning the conversation into helping ourselves. And Ebenezer Akwaharising was once the president of Association of Ghanaian Industries, and he knows what's holding our economy together. But beyond that, he developed the technical vocation program in conjunction with retired Director General of Ghana Education Service, John Budu Smith. Strangely enough, it was never implemented. Well, we will find out why. My name is Nana Sakwao, and this is PM Express. Developing the vocational way is the topic today. Very, very important subject. What is wrong with our education? And why is it that it's not in conjunction with industry? How come there's so much failure in the system? How come we can't find skilled labor anywhere? You have Malians, Togolese, coming in to do the very, very basic of semi-skilled work, if I may say. Now, with me to discuss this issue is a very senior citizen who has paid his dues in this country. He's lived it, he knows it, and indeed he's even written formulas on how to solve it, even though it was never implemented. Is Mr. Ebenezer Akwaharising, former AGI president. I'll call him Uncle for the purposes of this interview. He's going to be my uncle. He's my new fine uncle. Uncle, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Uncle, I just want to start this conversation from our education side. I mean, what is wrong with what we have?
Well, I should say that what is wrong is the constant changes in education. I believe that you must have a foundation. And then after you have gotten your foundation, you build on it and you do changes, which is a variety on the same theme, but the changes to enrich the progress of the people in this country. Let me tell you, I am of the old school. In our time, my father was a schoolmaster, so we traveled quite a bit. The point is this. When we were young in the primary schools, we were doing handicrafts as early as when you start school at 6 years. You were made to draw, you were made to work with your hands. You had even a school garden. Then we went up to the primary 6. You finished the primary standard 7. Everybody had school garden. Everybody was doing something, carving, painting, all sorts of things, in addition to English, arithmetic, and the sciences that went with it. And we were taught by one teacher for the class, and they were committed, and they taught us well. The reason is that you are being taught to think, not just to answer questions. So that with that education, if you were interested in the handicrafts side, painting or carving or pottery, ceramics, you know, when you left school, like the first H7, you will be able to get yourself employed. Now, all these things have gone on until, I believe, recently, quite recently, around 48 to the 50s, when even places like Achimota School, which had a lot of skills training in tie-dye, textiles, carving, pottery, you know, printing.
That's in Achimota.
Oh yes, printing and all those things. I served my apprenticeship at Achimota in the printing. You see, so a 3-year apprenticeship. You see, so after that, then I worked at the university library. Then I got a government scholarship to go to London College of Printing. By the time I entered the institution, I knew what I was to do. You see, but here, a person lives today. A person has not even done school gardening before. They haven't done any carving in the primary schools. Secondary schools, most of the people are just doing drawing, art, but nothing like furniture making, book binding, and all those things. So the interest of the students are not aroused. And then you tell that students to go into agriculture when he hasn't even had a school plot to plant corn or cassava to see how it works in practical terms. So really, the present education, to my mind, is retarding our progress in the sense that it doesn't allow us to think. Every education, whether it is academic or technical, should allow you to think. And I want to emphasize this point. Those who do technical things, like our people we don't regard, the roadside fitters, those who fabricate things, the welders and so on, they are thinkers. Because if they didn't think, they would not be able to look things through their minds and then fabricate gas cookers, ovens, dough mixers, and things like that. What is left with those people is for those who have attended higher institutions to perfect what these people are doing so that it may not look crooked. You see, so that if you want to repeat, you will get the same thing repeated several times. But then those who go to these technical universities and polytechnics, they don't do that. And I'm wondering whether they understand the whole thing themselves. You finish secondary school, you haven't seen a screwdriver in your life. Then you are going to polytechnic to do high HND, and some of them, when they see it and they don't like it, then they get entrance to university to read a different course. The best way to do this is for everybody to serve at least 1 year apprenticeship before they enter the polytechnics or the university, so that you exactly know what you are going to do. Let me give you an example. Sometimes we have forgotten our first engineers, like the late R.P. Bafu, de Graaf Johnson in the mechanical side, the electrical side, from Aqua, and others. You know, they were apprenticed at the railway location in Sekandi whilst they did their courses. That is why those people could design buses and assemble them here in the 40s. One of those buses was called a Kua or Rabna or something like that. Now, all this is gone. You see, so for me, what is happening is this. We have to go back. And how do we go back? We have had educational reforms. The previous government started with educational reforms. The angel or the golden side of that reform was the technical vocational education, which was highlighted. And then it was backed by law, Court Vet Act, I think it's 715 or something like that. But unfortunately, the Education Review Committee set up a technical committee and did all the matrix to roll these things over and teach how to teach these people based on apprenticeship. Before the government left the office, this Codvet Act has come in, and the minister then has asked the committee which was preparing these things to do a budget to train 100,000 apprentices. And if I say apprentices, I mean apprentices, not people going to do 6 months module in taxi driving or 6 months module in pothole things and that kind of thing that JIDA brought. JIDA came in as a stopgap. But then when the Codvet was established, what they should have converted the thing to be was for all of them to serve apprenticeship. The only bottleneck in that exercise was that government has never approved money to map out all the institutions to which apprentices would go. You see, people surmise. But when we were doing this research for JICA, JICA could only pay for only 200 entities. So we did it from Tema, Kumasi, and Takoradi. And we did it one-on-one. We did not go to a few people and then wrote a report. Every place we visited had their report, their views and everything done. And they were prepared to take people on as apprentices. What government had to do was then to continue the work we were doing by putting money for us to map out all these wayside fitters and things like that who are training people. The unfortunate thing is this. Sometimes the people at the universities and the polytechnics think that the wayside people are not good people. But if they are not good, who should make them good? You see? And yet these are the people who fix your cars, fix your refrigerators, build your houses, and so on. They themselves don't build their houses. See, for example, what is education in, say, building technology when that person doesn't even know anything about plumbing or wiring? If you do building technology, you must know something, not only the block work, but you must know all that goes to build a house, like plumbing, tiling, electric wiring, and so on, so that you could be a supervisor. So they are just getting the qualifications, but they don't have the skills because they refuse to go to industry for the right training to be done with them. You see, and right now they even resist because I don't know why they resist.
The other thing is, could it be because as a state, we reward those who read and write better than those who use their hands? So then everybody, rather than learning to use your hands, I must learn to read and write because when it comes to pay, I will get more money than if I used my hands.
Well, in fact, several years ago, those who did engineering and professional courses, civil engineering, electrical engineering, mechanical engineers, architects, and so on, got more pay than the administrative officers. For some reason, which is not known, they all became the same at one point, which was not also good enough. You see, the doctors were getting better pay and so on, but when they stopped that, I don't know why, because we used to have at the Ministry of Education 2 directors, one for technical, and when the technical man died, Mr. Toto, when he died, they never replaced him. So we have people planning technical education with no technical sense. They don't have the wherewithal to impart that, and we have a lot of that in the system. They pretend that they know how to impart things, but they don't know. Unless you have been baptized in proper apprenticeship, you will not know how to train apprentices. These ordinary people, carpenters, fitters, who take on apprentices and train, they are able to train them because they have also gone through the same apprenticeship system. What is left is for some nice school for them to go and learn how to write or speak English properly, arithmetic, so that at least they can write a report. You see, in addition to that, and they are all right. They can fix the compressors and the boilers, which we asked the foreigners to come and fix. When our water system goes down, you see? I mean, I was at KU University once. Their lift has spoiled, and I had to climb 4 staircases to up 4th floor. I asked my friend, why is it that you haven't repaired your? He said they've got the spare parts, but then the money, the maintenance agreement is with somebody else. I said, what? A technical university? Your boys should take it up as a hobby or something like that. Otherwise, where are they going to get the skills from? Mm-hmm. You see? And so this is the whole point. Some people think that who are not either industrialists or properly abreast with technical vocational education are those who are dictating how the form it should take.
So, listening to you, it means that at the moment our education is running parallel to the economy, because the things that are moving the economy, the plumbers, the welders, the roadside guys, who are fixing your cars, they're not being taught in the school. And the guys,
well, they've been to school. Some of them have been to school, and some of them have not been to school. But they need a little brush up. Mm-hmm. You see, those guys are picked by the big companies like Toyota, CFAO, all that. They are the people, they are picked to work in their shops. These big companies don't train anybody. If you take your car to the big companies, they will only teach you how to change filter and engine oil and some rubbers, that's all. See, they are not people, not trained to fix things. But I should tell you this, in 1951, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, when he took over as leader of government business, sent to England almost 1,000 artisans in various disciplines. They were already working artisans. And when they were sent there, they were not institutionalized because they had to work with factories. In fact, most of our engineers here, when they qualify from the universities, when they go to England or wherever they go, they don't go to institutions, they go to the workshop to be properly taught. So why is it that you don't start it from here? So that by the time you go there, you can then know your shortfalls.
Where did the stigma come from? Oh, where do you fit any? Oh, we're a plumber. Oh, we're a carpenter.
Well, the stigma, I should say, is personal. You see, the stigma is personal. Mm-hmm. Because even fishermen, people don't think they are, fishing. But my grandmother was a fishmonger. Mm-hmm. She had about 30 canoes and nets in Anomabu. Wow. My father's mother.
30 canoes?
Yes, in those days. And I was writing her books when the fisher folk came. If it is herrings, large, medium, and small. And so I was doing the accounts for my grandmother. You see, the whole point is that if you feel inferior, they will look at you as an inferiority person. You see, as I sit here, I don't think of myself as inferior because I haven't got titles before my name. Because the things that I have done doesn't show that. And I can challenge anybody who knows me to tell me that because he has got a PhD degree, he knows better than me. He doesn't. Because I have been at meetings with them, we have argued with them, and I don't think they got the better of me. So these things is in the mind.
But have I don't think you'll say institutionalized, but it's become a culture. It's become part of us, where as soon as you've done a little bit of proper schooling, we're carpentering.
Well, again, my grandfather was a carpenter. My father's father was a carpenter. They did good jobs. Let me give you an example. You see, those who built these big, good buildings in Accra, like the Ministry of Interior, Old Secretariat, like the Supreme Court, like the churches in Accra, they were not educated. Have you seen any cracks in them? No. Some of them were not even reinforced with iron rod, and yet they are still standing. It is the skills that they knew how. You know, those who didn't go to school, some of them know how to mix concrete where there is water on the ground. Ask some of these our academics. They will have to pump the water while the water is coming and so on and so forth. You see, so if they talk about skills, all we mean is that you can fix things, difficult things, not easy things. You see, if there is anything wrong with our system, then it is maybe the finishing. But I was talking about Nkrumah sending people to England. It was one-off job. I don't know why. But if they had continued it for about 3 or 4 years, this country would have been awash with a lot of skillful people. The idea was this. Nkrumah wanted to change the structure of the economy in this country, which he did in 1960 by establishing import substitution factories. You see, unfortunately, the management went wrong because it was a government business, as usual. But if the private person was running it, it would have succeeded. Like the boat yards, like the shipyard. We were assembling cars here. No pickup came here fully assembled. You had to bring the chassis and everything to be done here, by which reason people had skills in welding and body making and so on. In railways, secondly, they were doing all these things in the past. And they had a serious apprenticeship scheme, which they gave them certificates for that. You know, now it's all gone. PWD was another place. So, you see, in the olden days, they were actually training apprentices to be able to fix our problems. But all of a sudden, they look at certificates with no skill, and they employ you with no skill. You don't know how you should propagate the thing, and therefore you do it to fit your own understanding. You see? And that is why we are losing a lot of money and a lot of talent.
You came up with a model with John Boodoo Smith on vocational education to help the nation. What exactly were you to, and why wasn't it implemented?
Well, it's not exactly correct that it hasn't been implemented, but it has not been implemented the way...
Actually, let me take a break now, because otherwise, as soon as you get into your flow, they will break me. So I'll take a break here and stay tuned, and let's find out what happens. Well, what an education, developing the vocational way, and one thing that the country needs. And as our senior citizen stroke uncle is telling us, that all you need to do is those who have in their own way gotten some skills, there should be a policy or way in which you gather them back in the classroom so that at least their finishing can be perfect, and at least they can replicate whatever it is that they've molded or fixed or done. And we're here. That's how big economies go. But you were talking about the technical vocational program that you did with John Boodoo Smith. How was it, and how was it supposed to work?
I'll go back to the history. You remember that during the Rawlings time, they did an educational review. And then the idea was the JSS pupils should learn skills so that when they leave, then they know which way to go. Unfortunately, the implementers didn't know how to go about it. And I would like anybody to challenge me on that. And I'll tell you why. They thought that the government will bring equipment to all the schools to be taught there. It is never done like that.
That's what I thought.
It is never done like that. We had carpenters, masons, bakers, jewelers, and all these things in every district. So the plan should have been that they go to school, and every Friday, let them go to whichever they want, radio repair, this, so that by the time they finish, they have some skills. But the implementers at the GES thought that they should have government to vote money. Government hasn't got that kind of money. We should have used our imagination to know that. You see, but of course, they wouldn't do it, because if they want to order school desks, they won't go to the local people to order from them. They will go somewhere else for whatever reason, I don't know. So it's a social contract which will be between institution and those who are working in the various district areas. So that thing didn't work. So the government asked the Japanese government to try and report on how they can go about it. So when JICA people came into the scene, they said they have always been using those institutions for research, which never worked. So this time they will use someone from industry. So they picked the two of us, Budu Smith from institution and the former principal of ATTC, apart from being a director general of GES, and myself, a former president of AGI. And the two of us combined beautifully. And our work formed the report of the technical committee of the Educational Review Committee. We did all the matters so that what was to be done was to roll the plan, you know, out when the time came. But then in this country, you get a government, and then they dissolve the previous board. They bring in people who have no idea about how the whole thing was to be done. And of course, the people who are now manning the Convert office, when they were employed, they were never trained. They are just doing their best. So you see, the whole thing is not sitting well. And so AGI has tried and has offered to give students up to tertiary, from low to tertiary, to work in their factories, subject to proper arrangements being made. And you'll be surprised to know that the institutions are trying to sabotage it.
Why?
Well, I don't know. You see, they want to safeguard their businesses by giving wrong impressions, as far as I'm concerned. And this thing was being done by NCTE, of which I have been a member for several years until last April. You see?
What is there to gain or lose?
Well, you know, my little years on this earth, I have never worked in the civil service. But there is so much departmental rivalry that one cannot explain. You see, in the private sector, you may have department, but everybody knows that we are working towards one goal. But civil service, oh, I'm this department, I can't do it, I won't do it, unless something else happens. See, take a small example. COTVET was set up as an omnibus body which is in charge of qualifications and quality, and has the right, like in accreditation, the right of accreditation from bottom to top, you see. And we have put in mechanisms for you to know that you can go from that practical side, from first qualification to PhD. We've done all that. It's the practical side which people don't want to accept. And we call that practical side competency-based training. Competency-based training is something like, you want to make this bottle. Some people may take 1 year, others may take 6 months. So if you take 6 months to do this thing, then you move to the next level. If it takes you a year, then so nobody draws anybody back. You see, apart from the theory side. But the institutional side, you must be able to pass that. And if you don't pass that, you don't get your qualification.
So you just stay until you pass.
That's right. You see, but what we have now, right now, the polytechnics take 8 weeks attachment, which is not examinable. And sometimes they are not properly even aligned. Some don't get it, some get it, and that will not give them the skills they want. And when you have such a thing, naturally you will have a lot of polytechnic students who do not get any jobs in the industry. If you take something like marketing, which a lot of people think it is not good, marketing is good. Because you see, industry depends on marketing. But unfortunately, our students doing marketing are just learning the theory to go and find a managerial job somewhere. Those who do agriculture engineering, the degrees, they become salesmen. They are not even manufacturing small tools for our farmers. You see, if you look at our marketing system in the market, apart from cocoa, which has a proper marketing system, none of our foodstuffs or commodities has got that. And unless and until we get proper marketing, nobody will be interested, very few people will be interested in going into agriculture. Take how we pack gari and oil in bottles, polythene bags and things like that all along the road. It's the duty of those who do marketing to find a way to package it properly and market it so that it will become useful for the country. But then you get a marketing degree, and what do we get out of this? What I'm saying is a bit controversial, but it's the truth.
It is the truth.
You see? So it is not the fault of any government. It is the fault of those who are running those institutions. You see, as I said, Rawlings tried to do JSS, but those running the institutions thought that they should bring all the equipment and the money before, which was not going to happen.
It was a good idea, though. So what, the school would just basically identify all the workshops and shops around and say, look, Friday you're doing bakery, you're doing carpentry, you're doing fitting.
This is the practical way and cost-effective. You see, here in Ghana, we don't like cost-effective programs. We like programs which spend too much money, and then you don't get anything for it. I can say this as a businessman. I used to have a packaging industry. I was doing cardboard boxes for Lever Brothers from Winneba. I was supplying Lever Brothers 20,000 cartons a week until 1980. You see, it was a formidable job. I was running 3 shifts, 24 hours. The boys who were doing this were all primary school graduates. But I never failed. It is the discipline with which you tackle your job which will give you the results. But you see, it is not, we don't have that discipline here. And what we need is discipline in all these things. You see, that it seems to me that those who are working for the country in the public service don't seem to know that they should help private sector to grow. If private sector does not grow, no government can create jobs.
Let me tell you here. Normally when you send a boy or a girl to an apprentice, let's say a mechanic, they would charge them today probably
head fee.
Head fee, a crate of mold. So under the JSM system, well, the students still have to pay this, or you go to some agreement to say no, don't charge
it's
these
not
ones.
much. It's not much.
Well, I just want to, have there been a prior agreement with them, or they will just sympathize that because you're a student, I won't charge you back?
No. You see, for the master to take you as his own, you have to perform that customary thing. You know?
Okay.
Zimbabwean government sent a team here to come and learn from us, our apprenticeship system. And I took them around to Kumasi. They asked the people, how do you train your people? They said 3 years to 4 years, you see, and then they have to do the customary thing. Some say 3 years, but then the 4th year you have to work for us free. You see, it's all with variations. And they are skillful. If you go to Kumasi or Tema or Takoradi, they make tractor, the metal type, you know, the tractor, they cast it. And that is what a lot of people are using here. They cannot afford bringing in many of these things from abroad, you see. So our people are doing all these things. But then the officials close their eyes to it. They make scales, they make slashes, they make iron safes, they make a lot of things in this country. You know, why we have shut our eyes over these things, I don't understand.
Should we then standardization, so that if I bought a door or a gate from Spintex, it will be the same gate I buy in Dansuman, you know, within this industry? Should that?
Yes, that can come about when we have adopted this competency-based training. Mm-hmm. And the standardization comes with foundry work. You know, we have goldsmiths, things like that. Mm-hmm. They have their own way. They have the foundry. You know that cuttlefish bone, mm-hmm. the one you get from octopus. That is what they use, you know, to cast the metals and so on, earrings. They do all these things. They have the technology. Maybe it has to be improved. And then you have a design which will attract. You understand? Mm-hmm. But this is where the education comes in. But then you'll be surprised. There is no design department in any of the tertiary institutions. But in the developed world, they have a separate design department, because all ideas about manufacturing and everything starts with a design. We don't have that in this country. So, I don't know. The powers that be, you see, they don't come closer to industry so that we can give them these ideas. And when you give it to them, if they find it too difficult, they won't do it, because the Ghanaians don't like to tackle difficult things. They want to do easy things which will bring them quick money.
I'm just hoping that maybe somebody will take up the JSS challenge and start, even if on a pilot basis, from area to area to area. In a few times, it will all be rolled over.
Well, you'll be surprised to know that the person who took up the challenge is Apostle Asafo.
Okay.
You see, he started from Taifa. Mm-hmm. He has a school, and he's in production. He makes a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And that's where he has trained even in graduates, engineers, and other welders, and so on. He himself started as a welder. And therefore, these school boys go to school, and they help in the production. Therefore, they get the skills that they need for production. If you serve an apprenticeship in an area where you don't have production going, you'll be sitting down, lazy. Like if some of the students, they say they go on attachment to government institutions. Government institutions don't produce anything. When I was doing some of the research, they said, oh, an accountancy student, oh, I was taking money to the bank. I was writing receipts. That doesn't make you an accountant. You see, all professions has to be done through proper apprenticeship. You see, because qualification with no skills is a waste of time. That's why they don't get jobs.
I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, you mentioned Apostle Safo, and I want to go back there. I mean, if I was going to go into, you know, anything like what he's doing, and I look at what he has done, his cars and everything, and still is not getting any recognition from the state, what motivation does it help me to go and start making coal-pots when even the guy who did the pickup did not get any recognition? Stay tuned, and let's find out why. Developing the vocational way and being educated by senior citizen Ebenezer Akwa Harrison.
In a practical way, you carved stool, you made clay models, you made everything, you see, so that it started with that bit there. But now if you only take this object, what they call objective things, and you take a tree, mango tree, pawpaw tree for agricultural studies, even geography, people don't know where Kintampo is. They don't know where Kumasi is. These days, they don't. You see? But years ago, you drew the map of the Gold Coast, even map of Africa, and you could point out where Madagascar is. Education should be broad. And even if you are limiting it to our own country's knowledge, at the moment, our children don't have that kind of knowledge.
How much is it affecting us as a nation, economically?
That is why we have unemployment, even with graduates, because they are not thinking enough. You see, they talk of training, giving entrepreneurial training. Entrepreneurial training is merely teaching you how to run a business, keep your books, and know a bit of law and something. But a real entrepreneur is somebody who is focused and is determined to make good, is not afraid of falling down and getting up. These are the entrepreneurs. You think about the software and others, they just went straight like that. We've all gone down and come up. You see? And that is what makes us entrepreneurs. The man who started ABC, now given to Ghana Guinness, he didn't even finish primary school. And yet, look at what he set up there. You know, and we have to encourage such people. We have them all right. It's only a little encouragement. You see, and those who go to these universities should go in there to learn, not to think that we should invite them. They themselves should go in. You know, I'll give you one small example. When we were doing this research exercise, we went to Tamale when the stadium was being built by the Chinese. We asked the engineering students, have you visited this place? They said, we are waiting for them to invite us. I said, who told you that? You want to learn, you tell your tutors or your tutors to go there and make arrangement for you to go and learn from them. This is our mentality.
Waiting for invitation.
That's right. You see?
what should be the way forward? What should be the new revolution? What should we do?
The way forward is that, in my view, we've got a lot of square pegs and round holes in the system, especially in the technical system. Mm-hmm. You see, we've got that. Outside this country, in Germany, Singapore, and everything, those who teach engineering subject and vocational subject are the practitioners, those who are in the industries. You know, you may get a few who are not in industry, but those who are in industry, because they know what should be taught. But here in this country, you set up a polytechnic, and then you employ a rector who has no knowledge of how to train technical people. He doesn't have to be an engineer. You see, because business is not our culture. Therefore, in this country, the person must have a business sense to be able to head any institution geared towards development. Mm-hmm. You see, and I am aware of that. I know I've got a 10 years experience with them. So I know what I'm talking about, and I can debate anybody who tells me that what I'm saying is wrong. You see, you get a soil scientist as a rector. You get a statistician as a rector. But abroad, where they do these things, those in industry are those who teach. And they teach them well because they are carrying on from the practice there, and from there the students go back to those industries. You see, this apprenticeship system that I'm talking about, if they were apprenticed, once you go to polytechnic or technology, whatever, vacation time, you go back because there is production there, so you improve your skills. When they apply for jobs and they tell them, oh, you need so many years experience, they forget that they haven't served apprenticeship. You see, if you have served apprenticeship, it will count for your practical experience. And this is how we should go. You see, now we are talking of technical university. Technical university to me will be a change of name, just as they changed the name from technical institutes to polytechnic. It was all a change of name. And unfortunately, when they did that, they sacked all those who are skillful, the practical people, because they didn't have degrees. That's the whole point. You see, when we embark on one thing, we go from one end to another, such that we ruin everything. You see, those who teach are these technical people who didn't have any educational qualification. You wouldn't get this to happen in any advanced country. You know, only in Ghana that you don't have a degree, so you can't teach. And then when you are teaching, even the salary is so poor that unless you are committed, you won't even do it. You see?
Then another thing you've raised is our own mentality. I mean, parents would rather, no, don't do anything technical, vocational. Definitely go and do, go and read the arts. And we pull, we don't encourage our wards that direction.
Well, I'll tell you that my generation, we were not guided by any parent as to what to do. You see, the fact that we did various things at school, one was able to choose where they should go. Some of them went into agriculture, did science, became agriculture officers, a lot became doctors, and that kind of thing. Let me tell you how I became a printer and did my apprenticeship at Achimota. There was a senior science master called K.C. Whitaker. He was learning Fanti language, and it comes to Anumabu during vacation. I was lucky to have been called to go and teach him how to speak Fanti language. Then sometimes I'll come and stay with him at his bungalow in Achimota. He was then printing Fanti books, Ever books, and so on. Using this method, you know, we had a duplicating sort of machine, a multilith. We had that one. You set the type, and then you make an impression on a plate, and you set it in the machine, and you produce your books. I became interested. So after Anumabu, I told him that I'd like to come here and perfect it. That's how it is. See, as I'm saying, if people are given the opportunity to do certain things, they will not think of going to do subjects which will not make them marketable. But what is important is that, for me, it doesn't matter whether you read English or history. Let me give you an example. The permission of Uncle Ebo, White. You see, I don't know what he did, but even if he had done literature, it has commercial value, and he's putting it to good use. So why is it that the other people who have also done certain things are not putting it to commercial view? As I say, they are not thinking. You see, the thinking aspect of our life is gone. They go to universities only in search of work, to be a clerk somewhere. The Lebanese, we don't like, they say they don't treat us well. Which education did they have? And then they open factories, they all do all these things. Of course, after that, some of them send their children to universities abroad to come and hold the business for them. You see, so our mentality should change. You see?
Thank you very much, Senior Citizen Ebenezer Akwa Harrison, former president of AGI, definitely telling us an insight. But I like the fact that all JSS students find within your locality something, and every Friday or probably early Saturday morning somehow go there and learn how to use your fingers. That is really, really nice. And thank you very much for honoring our invitation.
Much pleasure.
Very good. And on Thursday, on That's My Opinion, what I am saying is that in 6 years, it will be 2020. And the whole world has got bringing something on the table. Ghana and Africa as a whole. In 2020, what are we bringing on the table? So on Thursday, 2 p.m. on Joy FM, don't miss it. Very insightful. Thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again.